Perhaps we could just say for the new people who've just arrived, we can just say barrister, AM member, barrister,
policy advisor for the Bar Council,
Chartered Institute of Legal Executives,
from Cardiff Law School,
solicitor.
all right? Floor is yours.
who's going to be the bravest?
Oh, I was going to ask, do you think it gives you as greater insight into the law if you're going through the non-university route as you would going through your apprenticeship into law? Is that would you gain as greater insights into the law as going through uni?
Well, from the unbiased position, of course, yes, I do. I would say yes. The feedback we get from employers and our members is that it's an excellent way to learn from the ground upwards. There's a kind of reputation that our members have is that they've sort of grafted their way along and you know, don't mind filling the photocopier, and whilst that is good basic administration and essential for your skills, you do learn law and practice at a sort of gradient, if you like. So there's no expectation on you knowing everything at the start, and you build your legal practice knowledge alongside your working knowledge. I did the course myself, and I can confirm that is the case. You know, I was worried to death that I would be expected to be able to do everything, but my employer gave me work appropriate to the level that I've reached in my education. So by the time I'd reached almost fellowship, I was an independent file handler, case handler, with limited supervision, but I was ready to be unsupervised because I'd gone through that process.
Would you say that the employers have a preference for students that have been to university or the apprenticeships?
I can probably help with that. We employ both people who have come through the Silex route as well as people who've gone through university. They do exactly the same jobs, they're treated in exactly the same way regardless of how they qualified. It's getting the job is all based on not so much which way you qualified, but your approach to it and the fact that you got through and qualified at the end of it.
I think that isn't the case, unfortunately, as far as the bar is concerned. You need either a law degree and then the bar professional training course as it is now at BBC when I did it, or another degree, the law conversion course, the GDL, and then the bar professional training course. So unfortunately there is only one route as far as becoming a barrister is concerned.
And I could perhaps just add that by choosing to go along the route that does get you earning and learning, as Lynn has said, which is obviously really important in these times when it's so difficult to finance your studies, nonetheless you're probably deciding at an earlier stage in your life what it is that you want to do. And what you do lose out on is the idea, which used to be the main thrust of university education, which was to have this liberal education that would give you an idea about all sorts of different areas of learning and to be able to drill down into an area which might or might not furnish you with the tools to be able to then go out and work. That may be a luxury that we can't have anymore, I don't know, but certainly 50% of the solicitors who are out in practice are people who have the GDL, and that means that half of the people who are working as solicitors are people who didn't start off choosing to do law or be lawyers. They have another area of expertise, and that's not unimportant. I don't think we want lawyers who only know how to be lawyers, who don't have another area.
As far as the bar is concerned, about 50% of barristers coming into the profession do a law degree, as in an undergraduate law degree, and the other 50% do something else first, and that could be anything, an English degree, a geography degree, a maths degree, and then do the year-long conversion, as Lowry said. So, as far as we're concerned, either.
I think in terms of, and I used to advise people like yourselves for Cardiff University before I went into politics. I think in terms of when you're making choices, you have to ask yourself the question when you're deciding at this point in time whether you know what path you want to take. If you do know what path you want to take, then the options you take are very obvious. If it's the bar that you're really interested in, then you really must go to a law school, and you must fight to get into the best law school you can get into, because competition for jobs as barristers is very, very tough. If you are interested in perhaps becoming a solicitor, then you've got options there that you can take. You can either go through the degree route, or you can go through the legal executive route, and there are benefits and pros and cons to each of those choices. if you do want to, if it's that the law itself as a subject is something that fascinates you and you find it really, really interesting, but you're not sure at this point, then a law degree can lead you to lots of other kinds of careers which are related to the law as well. So, for example, there are lots of politicians who are lawyers, which is useful when you write laws for a living. There are lots of people who work in our offices who give us advice, who are policy advisors and things along those lines, who are lawyers, and that is incredibly useful to us. Because it means that we have people with the kind of analytical skills we gain from doing a law degree, which is something that is, it's a very tough discipline, but employers across the spectrum of different careers respect a law degree because it is. They know it's a tough discipline, they know it's very analytical, and they know that it's giving you a certain kind of skills that perhaps some other degrees aren't offering them. So I think, as I say, it depends on what you think your best route is and whether you've really made your mind up as to which route you choose. How you then progress in the profession.
May I ask, are you all pre-A level? What sort of age are you? What are you doing? So
Year 12.
So you haven't. Yes, so you're in year.
We've already applied.
You've just applied to them. So it's all that sort of bracket. Right.
Oh, so we've got quite a
so
broad,
that's why I want
group.
to know the spectrum of. And yourselves, are you lower 6, so that's kind of age group.
Okay.
And those of you who've applied to university, have any of you applied to law? Yeah.
I've applied for politics and economics.
Well, I was going to say, because the law degree isn't the be-all and the end-all, and as Angela and Janet has already referred to, there is a GDL, which is the law conversion course. And a lot of what people have been saying recently is that somebody with a degree in something else, something a bit more interesting, can make you a little bit more of a more rounded person, not just a boring lawyer who's come straight through. But I'd say it's up to you. If it's something that you think you're going to enjoy and you're going to get a lot out of it at university, regardless of which career path you want to go on, you're spending 3 years studying something that you're going to have to enjoy and going to have to pay for. It should be something that you're interested in. Not just thinking long term, because you can go, having said what I said earlier about having to do a law degree or a degree and then go GDL, lots of people go off and do other jobs before they come to the bar anyway, so it's, they're not all people that come straight through the run, but do something you enjoy.
Hello. I'm not a student currently, but I thought I might ask a question on behalf of the students and myself as well. It's actually 2 questions. The first is, I know that there's many different types of barristers, so crime, civil, etc. And also there's the distinction between being a barrister and solicitor. And do you think that there's any particular types of people, or types of ways of thinking, or passions about various things that lend themselves to any particular type? Number 1. Number 2, so we all know that the bar is kind of overrepresented by people that are educated in private education.
Is that right?
I don't think that's right.
Is that, well, you said it as a fact, and I just wondered. Sorry, that's the lawyer.
So that was maybe slightly controversial compared to the population as a whole, who are educated privately, and you compare that to the bar, there's some kind of representation. So from a kind of social mobility perspective, I suppose we've got the bar council social mobility to say, what can those who haven't been privately educated do to compete effectively when trying to become barristers? So those are my 2 questions.
Can we address the second question first, in relation to the overrepresentation of privately funded, privately educated people? I think that in the last 25 years, that hasn't been the case. It's people who are successful at whichever school they go to, and then they get through to university education, and we'll come to in a sec. However, it is becoming an increasingly expensive career path to follow. For instance, just being perfectly honest with you, once you've done your degree, it's going to cost you thousands and thousands of pounds to pay for the bar course. And you don't get loans for that, you don't get government loans for that. And that's something that's come in particularly problematic in the last couple of years. Then you've got the ones who want to do crime, the fee rates are being cut. And it is becoming a situation, and it's becoming an argument that the criminal bar in particular are having with the government, the social mobility element that we have managed to rage against, and we have. For instance, I went to a state school, and I didn't go to Oxford or Cambridge, I went to Aberystwyth University. But the situation as it stands now is that people who cannot afford to practice and to do this job won't do it. You will have your wealthy Oxford and Cambridge graduates who come from affluent backgrounds and who have mummy and daddy who can pay for them to do the job, doing the job. It's not the case at the moment, but that's the way it's going. But I don't think it's fair to say that the bar itself is overrepresented by privately funded Oxford graduates. It's certainly not my experience, and it wasn't my experience at bar school. There was quite a varied range of people. What people can do about it, people can join the protest that we're currently having against the fee cuts, and just work really hard. If you want to do this job, you will get there. It doesn't, background shouldn't matter as much as people seem to think it does.
May I just add something to that? I think what you say has some basis, as exemplified by the fact that when I was called to the bar in 1984, the Lords Justices who were calling us were very proud. He said, "Do you know, we had a coal miner's daughter." Now, that was something. It was, aren't we doing well? So the attitude was, yes, you are from that sort of background. However, I most certainly wasn't from that sort of background, and many of my colleagues weren't. But, as Lowry says, times have moved on dramatically. Times have moved on dramatically, and I think your biggest obstacle will be cost. The answer to the question is you get your excellent results. However, I'm slightly intimidated, having seen my daughter in school and seen some of the results there, as to what more children can do. Everybody seems to be getting A's and A stars, and now that's not good enough. You've got to go and trek to Outer Mongolia or something to be attractive to a university.
But you can do something like this, actually. I mean, I can say that for those of you who have engaged in this competition, whatever the eventual result, what you have learned from doing this will be fantastic. The people you have met will enable you to engage in conversations that you wouldn't have been able to engage in before. You'll feel confident in different surroundings, and that's a brilliant thing for you to have done. I'd like to move on, if I can, to the first question that Temi asked, which was, what kind of people? Now, there isn't a kind of person who's going to say, well, that person will definitely be a solicitor and that person should definitely go to be a barrister. The finance point is becoming increasingly difficult, but I teach, or I have taught, I manage people now who do teach on both of those vocational courses, so the course that you do after your degree and at the point where you're training for the particular path that you're going along. And it's true in general terms, and as I say, this is only a generalisation, that if you prefer to be primarily a team player, you are much more likely to gravitate to be a solicitor, but not solely, because, of course, a barrister will have to work in teams, but they will be changing teams. And I think that if you prefer to work, if you like risk-taking, and if you like to be out on a limb and in the front line, death or glory, you are much more likely to be a barrister. But there are plenty of people who are strong-minded and risk-taking people who become solicitors, and indeed there are more thoughtful people who do not seek glory who go to the bar. But if you had to look at our classes, you would say that our tutors find that the more challenging sets of students whom they face are the ones who have decided to go for the bar course. And that's not because the people who go to be solicitors are less intellectually able, but it's the idea of joining together in a team and that they will collaborate more rather than challenge more. I think that's what I observe in classes.
It's very interesting perspective.
Just to add to that, if you have chosen to go and be a solicitor and actually you think, I would like to stand up and be counted in court, it's not that because you haven't done the bar you can't get there. I'm a solicitor advocate, I stand up in court, I've been to the Court of Appeal. You can be a solicitor advocate and practice in almost the same way as a barrister. So whatever stage in your career you are, and yes, finances are very important, and grades are very important, but never think that because you've had a bad result or because finances are tight, the career in law is blocked for you, because it absolutely isn't. It's all about your determination and your awareness of all of the different options that all of the people on the panel here can help you with. And as long as you're committed and you're determined, even if you hit a bump in the road or you think you've started to walk down the wrong path towards something that actually maybe that isn't for you, that's absolutely not a block to you going into the profession. There's absolutely a way into it for you if that's what you want.
Yeah, just to pick up on that point, which is sort of the point I was going to make as well. Chartered Legal Executive Advocates exist as well. So again, if advocacy is your intent, it is possible to use the SILEX route for that, although we don't have as many advocates, obviously, because the sort of work we do is more along the solicitor role. The thing that I say to would-be lawyers is, as long as you pass exams, regardless of cost, family background, or you pass assessments, there is a route available to you to qualify. Be prepared to look around, investigate, research your options. You might hit a wall, you might do your LLB and think, I can't do the LPC or the Bar Professional Training course. What does SILEX offer? You might do SILEX, finish that, think, well, actually, I want to become a barrister. You go through the solicitor barrister training routes. There are options available at all the stages, and the thing that I come across the most when I meet part qualified lawyers, if I can call them that, is that they haven't investigated every alternative. Know all of your options, have backup plans, have a second option so that you can make sure that if legal practice is what you want, you can do that. Don't think, I failed my A-levels, didn't get the grades, I can't go to university, game over. That is not the case. Persevere, get your exams, research your career path, and it is open to you regardless. You've got enough qualifications now, all of you, to join SILEX, so you could qualify that way. You can get into university if you get your A-levels, great. But just do the research. Ask people like us the questions. We can help you, and that's what we're here to do.
Did you have a question?
So you answered it.
Oh, sorry.
Could I come? I was just wondering on the point of competition. I mean, obviously, lots of careers are very competitive, but law has a reputation for being extremely competitive. And the point was made that, well, you know, how do you make yourself stand out from the crowd? It's not necessarily the students who've got the most expensive, flashy, grand kind of year-out experiences that make the difference. The thing I've always found very impressive is the students who know the value of the experiences that they do have, who have been able to analyse what they have done. So an experience like this is wonderful, and it will stand out on something like a UCAS form or a job application form because it shows commitment. It also shows perhaps self-motivation, that you do things that are outside of your normal curriculum. I have seen UCAS forms where people have told me that their hobbies are socialising and things along those lines. These are not hobbies for an application form. What we need to understand is what you learn from the things you do. So I've had people who put down, well, you know, I have a part-time job. Yes, I use it to earn money, but also I've learned to be independent. They trust me to manage the shop when they're absent, because I am dependable, I'm reliable, I'm trustworthy, I have self-motivation, and they think that I'm mature enough to cope with that level of responsibility. That is a very normal thing to be doing, is to have a part-time job when you're a sixth former, but learning the value of that and being able to demonstrate it to us, that is very, very impressive, and that is what makes the difference, I think. It is the difference between a really, really good candidate and a good candidate.
Can I just add to that, although I'm painfully aware that you've got a question, sorry, that one difference that I do see between those students who went to private school, fee-paying school, and state school students is that fee-paying school students are very able to talk about the skills that they've gained, but the experience that they've had is not necessarily any better, so confidence is absolutely key in what you've been able to do.
I want to ask, in terms of having a career in law after you've done a law degree, do you think it's best to go to the university that's like the best one you've got an offer from, or to choose one that you think you'll find more enjoyable?
Do you want to tell us what the choice is?
It's between Nottingham, Bristol and Leeds.
Three good unis, three very good
those
unis.
are good.
That's three fine schools. What I'd say is have a look very closely at the courses they're offering. and what options they give you to study. Do they give you opportunities to do kind of elective areas that you're really interested in? Choose the thing that you think you're going to love, because the thing you love you will put your heart and soul into, and you will get a better result out of it, you'll enjoy it, you'll thrive in it. I have, for example, a friend of mine, he had 4 offers from medical schools, one of which was an Oxbridge offer, and one of which was a college in London. He fell in love with the place in London, but he chose the Oxbridge one on the basis that, well, it's a better one for my career, and he hated it. And he didn't finish it. He graduated with a bachelor's degree in biomedical sciences instead, and went off to become a teacher. So his career actually was not served by doing the thing which was the best. It was, his career perhaps would have been better served by going to the thing that he'd fallen in love with. So always, whenever you're making choices about your future, it's a combination of the heart and the head. But if the heart is telling you, I'm not really into this, listen to it.
But I agree with that. It's 3 long years, and the law degree isn't an easy degree, and you're going to have to enjoy yourself as well. You're going to have a good time at university. It can be the 3 best years of your life, and albeit you might think that on the rankings one law degree is better, if you, as my colleague said, if you've got a gut instinct that this is where you want to go, and look at other things as well, if they offer other extracurricular activities that you're interested in, because your CV has got to be pounded out, not just with out to Mongolia for a year or whatever, but also you've got to come across as being a human being. And I've been reading a lot of applications in what we call mini pupilages and chambers recently. And one of the things that I have noticed is people who don't have any experience of law, straight out the window, because you need to show a commitment to your interest. We need to know that you've been doing work experience, you've been doing things like this, and that you're interested in it, taking part in MOOCs and mock trials in university, but also that you have a personality and a life outside of that. So if, for instance, if you've got musical interests or you're sporty, take that 3 years as a time to foster that as well, because it's not all about the law, but also you do have to have a commitment to the subject. For instance, if you have a gap year between university and bar school or law school or doing whatever, look for a legal related job maybe, because that's going to help you on your way. But I started from the same point as you guys. I took part in this competition when I was in sixth form, and it was something that I found opened my eyes to what exactly this job is. And also it was a talking point for interviews to university and interviews then for eventually for law school, so bar school. I said, well, I got interested in it when I was 16, 17, and this is why. So it's something good that you can talk about, but you've got to have a life as well.
However, there is a slight elephant in the room here, because we're all assuming that many of you want to go on to law. Staying with that assumption for the moment, you have to keep an eye on the politics, because the government's aim is for a fused profession, and that may affect your situation, because we may be having this conversation in 10 years' time. We won't be talking about barrister and solicitor, we'll be talking about lawyer. And am I going to be a conveyancing lawyer sitting in my office, or am I going to be going into court? The government, undoubtedly, this isn't a political, it's a fact.
Politically minded at the moment, are we?
But we are, it's obviously top of the agenda, but that is something to have regard to. However, there will always be a need for, in criminal terms, certainly people will need defending and prosecuting, but there are many, many aspects to law, not just crime. If you want an interest in life, do crime. If you want to make money, don't do crime. And that really is very sound advice.
Can I just go back to your more immediate dilemma? The one thing that we haven't touched on, although I think very sort of meant to make reference to it, is think about the place in which you would be based. Make sure that it's an environment that is going to help you to flourish. Some people love a campus university, some would much rather be in a city. Some people like to be in a big and more anonymous environment, and some don't. So I think you need to think about that. And the other thing that should help you to decide is looking at and this was referred to, but looking at the sorts of activities outside your immediate course that you will be able to do, but which will enhance your chance of employability. So make sure that you ask questions of the people who are seeking to have you as one of their students to see whether they do have clinical opportunities, and that means opportunities to practice what you would be doing in the end with real clients. So those sorts of things under the supervision, under the tutelage of qualified lawyers, but certainly you ought to be looking to see what they offer of that sort, because that will make you stand out. And do stay well-rounded. Don't just read good books, you know, things like that.
And take on Lynette's excellent point about whatever you do, what's your experience from that? What have you learned from that?
And if you do want to travel and you do want to take a year out, don't think that that does have to be building huts in Mongolia. You can go and do internships in America, doing capital cases. You can go and work in South Africa in law centres. There are a number of CV boosting life experiences which are law-based, which will set you apart. So it is great travelling, and I wouldn't dissuade anyone from doing it, but try and avoid just jumping on that backpacker wagon and going to Australia for a year and see if you can do anything more.
Yeah. Your politics, I was thinking, I had a case the other week where my witness had actually, I was so impressed, she'd actually been on the Obama campaign. She'd been out and she'd been helping with that and now gone on.
You can do that actually.
Going back to the clinical point, obviously I don't deal with the university route as such, but I do meet university students, and I also am the mother of a university student, and I can confirm that a happy student is a successful student. And what you need to bear in mind if the traditional bar or solicitor route is for you, is that to get onto the LPC or the BPTC, or at the well, not for that stage, but maybe the training contract or the pupillage, your grades are going to count. And you need to get the grades, so you need to be happy and you need to be somewhere where you've got support. So if you decide to go to Scotland and you live in Cornwall and your family is important to you, that might impact. So think about the bigger, more social side of it as well. You know, you can ask students at that university, how are they and how's the course? But there's also the other side of it. You have to live, you have to be happy, because if you're not, your grades will not reflect well.
Have you been on open days? Did you when you were on the open day, did you manage to speak to students who were already there? Yeah. Did that help at all? Yeah, because that was going to be my suggestion if you hadn't been.
The other thing I did quite a lot of when I was looking at my universities, my friends and I, we all basically got on trains and went for day trips to the city just to see what the city was like and whether we liked the place or not. So we had a lot of fun, but I think we learned something. We all went to university in one of the cities we visited, so...
That's a question.
As you touched on earlier, would you say it's better to study law or do a law conversion, or does it not matter?
For what purpose? What do you want to achieve?
I would go back to the last question and say you have to survive and thrive in 3 years of university. Do your research. Is a law degree right for you, or do you have an interest in another subject that isn't law? In terms of the statistics, coming to the bar at least, half do LLB and go on to the BPTC and half do something else first and then do a conversion. So in terms of your chances, doesn't matter. What is the big determinant is your academic performance. So if you can possibly get a first-class honours degree, it helps a lot, and that you've come out, as all of the panel have mentioned, with a good basket of experiences and skills. So you have to, unfortunately, it's a tough decision for you. You have to just decide where you're going to be happiest.
But ultimately, you have got to want to do it. It's not, oh, this might be a good career, I'll give it a shot. Tenacity, and that is what is picked up, certainly at the bar. If you're not tenacious and really want it, then your academics won't hold you in good stead. It's the desire to really want to. I suspect it's the same for medicine or anything. You've really got to want to do that. You've got to have that interest.
I think practically speaking, a law degree is 3 years. Any other degree would be 3 years, but then you'd have an extra year doing the law conversion course. When I was at bar school, 2009-2010, it was, as my colleague said, it was about 50-50, people who'd gone and done something else, and people who then had then done the GDL, and then people who'd done a law degree. I found that those people who'd gone and done something else were a little bit more interesting. I didn't, I went and did the law degree, I enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong, I did enjoy it. Lots of people don't enjoy it. It depends if you're interested in that subject, but if, for instance, if you are passionate in history, go and read history and then do the law degree, because the law conversions effectively will cover the main law points in that year anyway. But as everybody's been saying, you have to enjoy those 3 years and you have to get the best grades you can out of it. And if you think your contract law for a year is going to bore you rigid, don't bother, go off and do something else, because I find that the actual ins and outs of the law, you learn that later on in practice.
Except, sorry, you say if contract will bore you rigid, except if you do a conversion course, you still have to do the 6.
Exactly.
So you still have to do them.
So Dan's right. But I think, perhaps not contract wasn't a good example. There are other things that you don't have to do on the law degree, I can't remember.
Family, there are 6 basics, aren't there, that you have to do.
There are some aspects of practicing law which actually are enhanced by your having done a degree in something else. Particularly, for example, intellectual property. You may well have a scientific background. You could be somebody who is brilliant across the board, and you may be really torn as to which way to go. So you might want to follow your passion for a science and think somewhere along the way, but I don't know, other than working in a university, doing some research, how can I further that as a career? And then actually you suddenly think, oh, I could do this, I could be valuable as part of a team, helping people to realise that, to be able to define what are the particular aspects of something that they have discovered, invented, that will mean that they can glean from it money by virtue of the fact that it's something they've created. Now you would be able to advise them on that because of your scientific background, for example. So there will be things that you could do as a lawyer that if you didn't have a degree in another discipline, you wouldn't be able to do.
Janet mentioned the change in the legal sector. I think this is something that you need to become aware of if you're not already aware of it. The Legal Services Act of 2007 had a huge impact in terms of regulation and representation of lawyers, but also how legal firms can be set up now, which means partnership is available to non-solicitors, chartered legal executives, barristers, accountants. You have alternative business structures, whether you like them or not, they exist. You need to investigate this sort of thing, because this is the future. The future generations of lawyers might not be university graduates. So I appreciate that, I'm maybe a lone voice in the non-university route, but you don't have to go to university if legal practice is what you want. Look around for apprenticeships. Do you want the debt? Do you want to go to university and have those debts? If you can have a job in a particular practice area now where you will qualify as a lawyer in that practice area, I appreciate the point that it's early to choose. You might go away and do a history degree or a geography degree, but at that stage, the GDL is not necessarily the only option. If you want to do law, you can do law part-time. You can do it by correspondence course, you can do it while you're working in legal practice, working your way up and not getting that additional debt, not needing a training contract, not needing to pay for the LPC or the BPTC, not needing the pupillage, just working and paying for what you need. So that's the future as well. You need to look at the sector, what you're going into.
Can we make this the last question, because some of your schools might come back?
Yes, I'm just worried that you might miss your next...
Your teachers are going to...
You said that practicing criminal law doesn't bring in as much money as other sectors. Which one would you say is? Since
I'm on the pauper section rather than the, I'm not the best bet, but there are definitely. All joking aside, really, that doesn't mean that you won't earn money at crime. Of course you will, but don't think you're going to be coming to crime to be earning £100,000 a year. You'll be coming to crime to earn £30,000. after your expenses, perhaps. All right. However, when you take that, you can charge as a civil lawyer. But you must remember there's a smaller market. All right, because not everybody needs a civil lawyer, but that's privately paid. But a lawyer, properly paid, I should charge £175 an hour for my experience. I'm lucky if I get £30 on special preparation from the government. So that is the disparity. But a private lawyer can charge that. And in fact, solicitors can charge even greater sums. That's right, isn't it? It's a practicality.
That's true. So, I mean, I work for one of the biggest commercial firms in Cardiff, and our newly qualified, when you've finished your training contract, it's 36,000, and it's not self-employed. It's a salary, so you're guaranteed to get that. So you're not having to work cases for it. Now, as I say, I'm not saying that that's better than being a barrister. I'm just saying it's different, and not all civil lawyers are paid that kind of money. Like I say, we are one of the biggest firms in Cardiff doing civil law. There are many civil law firms in Cardiff who are doing civil law on a legal aid basis. So that's just the top end of the market. Certainly, if you end up as being a partner of a large corporate firm in London, you can expect a salary of over 100,000, probably over 200,000. And if you're an equity partner, you're looking at potentially profit per equity partner in some of the firms is £500,000 a year. But they are the minority. Please don't come into law thinking that you're going to be very, very rich, because that won't happen, very sadly, which it was. But it is very engaging, it's very interesting. It's, no matter what your passion is, be it for attention to detail in documents or standing in front of a room of people and holding their attention on every single word you say, there is a place for you in the profession if you are passionate about it. And that's what I would say is, every one of us comes from a different background. I don't know about everybody, I can't speak for everybody, but I love my job. I have a great time doing it. It's tough, it's difficult, but I've always wanted to do it. I am doing it. I didn't get good A-level grades. I didn't go to a red brick university, and I still have managed to achieve my goal. And I hit many bumps in the way, and it's just about sticking to your guns, go ahead with it, and hold it out, and you will do a great job.
But just to come back, if you do really want to make money, you would have to have a look at the market, have a look at the niche market. There's lots of things emerging which would complete anathema to me, but there's all the cyber stuff, there's all that. There must be a counterpoint to law in it. There's entertainment law. I know somebody who makes a wonderful living on entertainment law, but it's niche, it's a niche market. So whilst it may pay highly, the chances of getting it are going to be that much slimmer.
From a baby barrister point of view, any of you coming up to interviews for anything to do with law, whichever area of law that you want to go into, when somebody says, why do you want to be a barrister or a solicitor, do not say, because I want to make lots and lots of money, because it's not going to get you very far. And secondly, I know money is really, really important, but I have to agree with my colleague there. The job that I do, I absolutely love. And yes, I do practice predominantly in crime. My employment sort of supplements me a bit financially, but it's so much fun. No 2 days are the same. It's a lot of work, and you do actually end up having to do work for nothing. And some nights you're up until 2 o'clock in the morning prepping cases, and parts of that doesn't get paid for. There are certain times you have to come to court and you don't get paid for coming to court. But it is a vocation. It's something that you wake up in the morning and you really, really want to do. And if you are that committed, and certainly those of you who've been doing the advocacy in this course, if you did get really excited and found it really fun, then it is the job for you, because I can't think of a better job personally. But
I think.
Sorry.
No, Terry wants to call it.
I think that those comments were really useful for me, let alone anybody else. Wish I'd written that. Can we thank our panel, because I think that was really helpful.